I think this pretty much summarizes my thoughts on the Final Destination. What's up, everybody? Haunted Beard here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing my franchise series of reviews here with part 4 in the series, The Final Destination. Let's talk about it. So look, there's no need to give you any sort of plot synopsis because it's literally the exact same thing as the first 3 films. So, The Final Destination starts off at a racetrack, and our main character, of course, gets a premonition that there's going to be this huge, horrific crash. This was a first-time watch for me, and I can say this is objectively the worst film in the series. It's really, really bad. As you can just tell, the production budget had to have been significantly lower for this than the rest of the movies. The writing is atrocious. The acting is atrocious. Some of just the line delivery and the lines of dialogue are just so cringy and awful.
That's a lot of tampons for one woman.
And I have to assume it's due to the cheap 3D and the lower budget, but the CGI in this is just terrible. And I will say, though, that there is an element of so bad it's good in The Final Destination. As, listen, this one clocks in at only like 80 minutes, 75 minutes if you exclude the credits, and so, you know, it runs by fairly quickly. However, the so bad it's good really only gets you about halfway through the movie, as there's really only so much you can take of this thing before you're just kind of like,
I'm done. Goodbye.
But like with all these, I'm going to go through the movie, so here we go. As I said, this one starts off at a racetrack, and our main character gets a premonition that there's this massive crash that's going to happen. And we get just some brutal dialogue and stuff like that. And the characters here are equally atrocious. I mean, you got a scene here with a mom who's using tampons for her kids to stick in their ears because it's too loud. It's just like, what are we doing? And just like always, you get some really cheesy foreshadowing. Of course, bad things are going to happen. And once again, our main character freaks out. He tries to convince all of his friends to leave to save their lives. And of course, they get out just in the nick of time before all hell breaks loose. Like I said, there is a bit of an element here of so bad it's good. Just the horrible CGI here with some of the kills is just laughably bad. And so there is a degree of entertainment to be had with this opening sequence. So now the main cast, after having just witnessed a absolutely horrific accident where they saw multiple people die in the most brutal and terrible ways right in front of their very eyes, they decide to go out for coffee at a cafe by the name of Death by Caffeine. Yeah. After the scene at the cafe, we have to have another memorial scene because all these movies have to have a memorial scene. And we find out that one of the characters, and get this, his literal character's name is Racist. He is very upset at the security guard, who is played by none other than Bubba himself from Forrest Gump. And he's upset with him because he prevented him from going back into the stadium to rescue his wife. And now we get a scene where Racist wants to exact revenge on Bubba. And the representation of this guy's character is just hilarious. He is driving a tow truck, drinking light beer while he's driving. He has a skull cap on and is listening to heavy metal because, of course, that's what he's doing. Why not? And get this, Racist goes into Bubba's front lawn and is going to light a cross on fire. But something happens with his tow truck, and "Why Can't We Be Friends" comes on the radio, because of course it does. And then he gets caught by the hook on his tow truck in a scene that was kind of reminiscent and reminded me of the scene in Home Alone 2 when Marv slips on the paint. That's more or less what happens to this guy. Bubba runs out of the house, and he sees Racist getting drugged down the street, on fire now of all things, and then he ends up getting killed. And the kills here are pretty terrible. Really, all the kill scenes in The Final Destination are not good. And I think it has to do, at least to some degree, because they tried to implement the 3D effect, but they're just all really bad, and it's just, I could just harp on this forever and ever, but it's just, the kills are bad because of the 3D stuff and the just terrible, crappy CGI. And yeah, it's all just really bad. Then we get a scene with our main couple, Nick and Lori, and this is one of the most cringe, awkward, and uncomfortable scenes I have seen between two people who are supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend in a movie in quite some time, as his acting and line delivery is just, oh man, it's brutal. And then her hug at the very end is the most just unnatural, awkward, and uncomfortable thing I've ever seen.
What is happening to me?
So I'm kind of going to eat my words here because I just said that all the kills are terrible, and they pretty much all are, but there is actually one that I will say is actually pretty good. And that is the next kill in the movie, the kill of the character of Samantha. And this one I legitimately enjoyed, and that's because it was reminiscent of a lot of the kills from Final Destination 2. It just so happens that this has the same director. And this one's cool because it has a lot of fake out and false alarms, and you don't know what is eventually going to kill her. And she gets her hair done, her kids come back into the salon, and she walks out the door and takes a rock that was shot out of a lawnmower to the eye, and she drops dead right in front of her two kids. It's a pretty good one. I liked it. Next, we get a scene that offers nothing new as the characters learn that other characters in the past have gone through the same exact things. And this is just a good example of an idea that has really gotten to the point where it's being beat to death, because we as the audience have seen this now. I guess technically it doesn't happen in the first film, but this is the third time we're seeing like literally the exact same scene. And it's like, this is just why you gotta change it up. You have to do something different at this point, because this is literally the exact same thing. Next up, we get the kill of the mechanic character, where, of course, you get Bubba, Nick, and his girlfriend Lori, I think her name is. They're trying to track down one of the people who survived and warn them, because we haven't seen that before. All right. And they convince him, so he, is getting out of the mechanic shop or whatever. And this time he gets crushed by the tow truck right in front of a fence, where we get a nice 3D effect of the pieces of his body being skewered right through the fence. And next we get the scene of the near death of the character of Janet, where she almost dies in a car wash due to a malfunctioning sunroof. You heard that correctly. Listen, if you're at the point in a franchise where you're trying to off characters by a malfunctioning sunroof, it might just be time to wrap it up. But fortunately, she gets saved. However, the character of Hunt, who is just a complete and total tool, I haven't even mentioned him up until this point in the review, but believe me, he is just awful. But he has an interesting demise where he literally gets sucked butt first through a public pool drain and then squirted out the pump system. And you know what? I have to give the writers a little bit of creativity credit there. Next up, we get Bubba's fantastic monologue, and they try to do something here where they add some emotional depth to his character, because we find out that his wife and child died in a car crash, and he's very depressed about it and is trying to himself. And then Nick and Lori break into his home, and he's hanging in this noose, and they cut him down, and it's like the most just bizarre scene, because he starts making jokes almost. He's very lighthearted, and he literally says, "I've been trying to kill myself all day."
I'm just trying to give God what I thought he wanted. I've been trying to kill myself all day.
What? And then they cut him down, and he still has his noose on in the next scene. It's amazing. Then we get Nick and Bubba walking down the road, and Bubba makes a deja vu joke, and wouldn't you know, he gets hit by a bus.
No, not that. It's like deja vu. My wife said that deja vu is like God's way.
Then we get one more scene that turns out to be a premonition of a theater exploding where Lori and Janet are. But because Nick had the premonition, he is able to go there and save the day. And then the last of them are sitting in a cafe at the end of the movie, and a gigantic truck crashes through the wall, and credits roll. So that is the Final Destination. It's a pretty rough one, and like I said, okay, there is one, I think, pretty good scene, and there is an element of it that it is entertaining, of the so bad it's good type of variety. But man, that only lasts for me for about the first half hour. And then, you know, after that, it kind of just, it gets boring and it loses its appeal. And it's a rough one. It's not good. There's not really any redeeming qualities about it. So if I'm being objective, man, this is probably like a 2 out of 10. Entertainment value, I'll give it a 4. And the kills are probably like a 3. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Final Destination. Let me know what you think. Hit me up down in the comments. That's all I got for you. We got one more coming up next, of course, Final Destination 5. So I will see you then. If you like videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. And like always, I'll see you next time on The Haunted Beard.